The next segment of our event will take us to a different plane, the plane of inspiration. And we'd like to take a couple of minutes to thank our partners, Metrics Lab, NIQ, and YouGov for making this inspiration segment possible.
Metrics Lab is a Taluna company. It is a leading global market research and insights company that is challenging the status quo of insights. By blending evolving technologies with passionate experts, Metrics Lab helps build brands and drive more impact and build partnership to drive more sustainable growth and equitable growth.
NIQ delivers the full view, the world's most complete and clear understanding of consumer buying behavior that reveals new pathways to growth. NIQ shows the world what people want by discovering insights within consumer buying behavior and revealing them to the world.
YouGov is an international online research data and analytics group with a mission to offer unparalleled insights into what the world thinks. Whatever the product, brand, or campaign, YouGov offers the tools to freely explore your audience, plan and activate your research, and track the results.
We just celebrated the best of our people from the previous year. To inspire all of us further, we bring to you an expert on the concepts of unlimited sacrifice, enduring bonds, loyalty, and obedience in military and human life.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our absolute honor to invite on stage a national hero, a leader and an inspiration to many. Please put your hands together for Lt Gen DS Hooda, former Army Commander of the Indian Army's Northern Command.
Thank you all very much for this very generous reception. Let me say it's a great pleasure for me to be here. Thanks to MRSI for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to be here amongst you. As I look back more than half a century ago, as a 16-year-old bright-eyed young fellow, I first put on my uniform. And I removed it when I was 60 years old. So everything that I've learned, everything that I am today, is actually because of my service in the Army and what I've learned. And I will share some of those 5 key lessons which I think are important. Important not only for us in the military, but I think important for all of us as we look to navigate some serious challenges in life. And since Mitali has put me on a very tight schedule, so I'm going to jump straight into my presentation. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is beyond limits, the power of the human will. We often think of soldiers and officers working in physically demanding conditions, and it's true. I mean, operating in conditions which are 20,000 feet, oxygen levels are so low that you can just breathing is also an effort. Temperatures go down to -40, -50, -60 degrees. And there are times when your body says, enough, I have reached the limit of my physical endurance, I can't do any more. And it's at times like this when really your human will, your motivation levels that come from inside, and that tells you, look, take one more step, take one more step, take one more step. And it's that which drives you on. You might be in the peak of your physical condition, but ultimately, there are times when your body feels just like it's giving up, and that's the time when your mind really kicks into gear. And a stellar example of this, and I will give you some small stories from my own personal experiences in the Army. The date was 3rd February 2016, and this is a photograph of Siachen, and a whole wall of ice from the mountain face that you see in front came and fell down on what was a Sonam post. Now, Sonam post was what post? 10 men living inside a tent. They were all together. It's 5:30 in the morning. They were all inside the tent. The post is located at 19,500 feet. And this whole wall of ice collapsed. And it was so massive that it covered an area of about 1 kilometer by half kilometer to a depth of 35 feet. And this is not soft snow that you could sort of dig through. This is the kind of chunks of ice which came 6 to 8 feet. So our rescue teams moved in the morning, and The problem was we just didn't know where that single tent is located. We had just no idea where exactly to find and how to pinpoint and locate that one tent. So we moved in snow cutters from Jammu. We moved in avalanche rescue dogs from Srinagar. We moved in ground penetrating radars, metal detectors. At about 10:30 in the morning, we got a faint radio message saying, some of us are alive. Unfortunately, that was the last message we got. Anyway, we persisted. 3 days passed, and then we said, hopes by then had faded that anybody could be alive under that much ice and snow. It was on the 6th day that we hit the top of the tent. And I remember getting a message at midnight saying, sir, we've located the tent, and there is one soldier who's alive. Lance Naik Hanumantappa. His heart was beating, he was breathing. Of course, he was in a very bad shape. So then we evacuated him immediately from there, got him down to Delhi, our main hospital, Army Hospital at Delhi. Unfortunately, he didn't survive, Hanumantappa. But even in his death and sacrifice, he leaves us with a question, how is it that somebody can survive for 6 days under 35 feet of ice in those kind of conditions? And I think the answer is, we can't find a physical, medical reasoning for this. Just the fact that he willed himself to live, that determination, that desire that, I wish to survive. And so, when we talk about the power of the human will, this is one example I always give as, what is it that kept this man alive? Just has to be a tremendous amount of will that kept him going for 6 days completely buried under ice. The next thing I want to talk about is values and action. Now, I know Hanumantappa's is a very exceptional story, but there are hundreds and thousands of soldiers who are operating on our borders in extremely, extremely difficult conditions. And I want to show you some photographs which sort of shows what they do on a daily basis. So here is this man going up to a post. And some of these posts are so difficult that, literally rock climbing that you have to do. Conditions are very basic. Comfort levels are very low. And daily challenges you are facing almost on a day-to-day basis. And while doing this, you have to continue with your routine. You have to patrol the borders. You have to make sure that your borders are safe. And doesn't matter what the weather conditions are, doesn't matter what is happening. And I'm sometimes asked this question that why is it that soldiers in such difficult conditions can continue to operate with such great enthusiasm, with such great resilience in the most demanding and difficult of conditions. And there are many reasons for that, but I think one fundamental reason is the practice of values. And what are these values in the military? Values are courage, honor, integrity, comradeship, loyalty, obedience. So these are not things that we just talk about. These are things that are practiced almost on a daily basis. So for us, the set of values is not something that is morally desirable. Look, these are nice to have values. These are values that are absolutely essential for functioning of the military. If these values do not exist, if these values are not practiced, the military will cease to function. If there is no loyalty, there is no obedience, there is no honor, there is no courage, the military will cease to function as an organization. And when we collectively look at these values, this is what forms what we call the organizational ethic. You could call it the organizational culture. So your culture in your organization is based on the set of values that you practice. And one fundamental ingredient of the organizational ethic is what we term unlimited liability. And what is unlimited liability? That officers, men, soldiers say, we will go to any extent in the performance of our duty, including the requirement to lay down your life if it is so required. That is what we call unlimited liability. There's an officers training academy, the French officers training academy is at a place called Sancerre. And at Sancerre, in their training academy, there used to be a chapel. And in the chapel, there was a plate with names of officers who had lost their lives, in combat or in performance of their duty. So each officer who lost his life, his name was engraved on a plate and put in the chapel. There was one plate in the chapel which read, the class of 1914. Every officer who graduated from that academy in 1914 lost his life in the First World War. And there was a single plate for them, the class of 1914. We say that, the army, the military is a very resilient organization. And why it's resilient is because it's a value-driven organization. Because it practices the principles that we say must be followed. And I know individuals have their own sort of individual preferences, individual principles. Organization that you all serve in has its own set of values. I think the question we must ask ourselves is whether these values are an essential and integral part of functioning of the organizations. How much value do you give to these values? Do you actually practice what you preach? Let me come to a third sort of fundamental lesson, which is, you could lose a battle yet win the war. There will be setbacks. I mean, this is not a perfect life. There will be personal setbacks. There will be organizational setbacks. But we should not let these setbacks push us back. We all celebrate the Kargil Vijay Divas every year, and we say, what a fantastic victory the Indian military won in Kargil. Do you know that the first month of the war was a series of failures, series of defeats? 1 month we persisted, every attack that we launched failed. Helicopters, aircraft were shot down, soldiers were killed. We persisted. We didn't say, 1 month is a list of failures and therefore we should not persist. And our first victory came after a month in what was called the Battle of Tololing. And today we celebrate it because we didn't let us put it down. On a more personal note, this is the scene at Uri, 18 September 2016. I was the army commander and 4 terrorists had sneaked into this Uri garrison and surprised us. And in the firefight that ensued, we lost 20 soldiers. That was the biggest single-day loss in counter-terrorist operations in Jammu and Kashmir till that time. We had never lost 20 soldiers on a single day. And the next day, coffins flew out to all parts of India of these 20 soldiers. And there was fury, and there was outrage, and there was grief, and massive amounts of criticism directed at us, saying, I mean, what sort of guys are you? You can't even protect your garrison. Your duty is to protect this country, and you're not able to even protect your own camps. And there was obviously also a sense of failure personally, that why is it that we could not do more to protect our soldiers? Why is it that we had to lose 20 lives? But did we let this setback, the strategy that we had suffered, we didn't let it make us defensive. We didn't say, now let's get into our camps and not do anything. We said we will respond to this by what is now famously known as the surgical strikes. Within 10 days of this operation happening on 18 September, 28th September, we had launched 5 cross-border strikes into Pakistan across what is considered one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world. We didn't say, let's not attempt one more adventurous thing because it could lead to failure. We didn't say, let's have modest aims. We said, no, we will set the bar high. And so, yes, there will be disappointments. Yes, there will be difficulties that will happen. But don't let that moderate your ambition, let me say. Don't let it make you sort of defensive. My next point is on strength and humility. And it's often thought that, leaders must show a level of dominance, must show a level of assertiveness. These are hallmarks of a good leader. I would suggest to you that humility is a great, great factor in leadership. It encourages collaboration. It brings people together. It acknowledges everybody's role in what they are doing. It encourages loyalty among team members towards the leader. And I can say this in no better words than General Eisenhower. General Eisenhower, incidentally, was a general of the US Army in the Second World War, and he was the one who led the Allied armies to victory over Germany in 1944-45, considered one of the good generals of his time. General Eisenhower also went on to become the US president later in the 1950s. And where he is buried, near his grave, there is a wall which has some of his most famous quotations. And on one of the walls, this is what it reads: humility must always be the portion of any man who receives a claim earned in the blood of his followers and the sacrifices of his friends. So yes, as a leader, you will get accolades, you will get credit for what happens, but also remember that this credit and this success has come about because of what people under you have also done. A lot of people say General Hooda, the architect of the surgical strike, the big hero. Honestly, the big heroes were those who went across the border. Those soldiers and men who went across, put their lives on line. The real burden of success or failure actually was on their shoulders. If they hadn't performed what they did, we wouldn't be celebrating, these great surgical strikes, and probably Vicky Kaushal wouldn't have made that movie too. So, yes, we will get credit as leaders for what our organizations do, but please remember that this has come about also because what people under you and what they have done. And if nothing else, that should bring in a sense of humility among leaders. And my final point is on comradeship. There is great power in unity. September 2015, another small short story. September 2015, there was a Special Forces patrol which was going for counter-terrorist operations in a place called the Hafruda forest in Kashmir. Unfortunately, the terrorists got to know that there's a patrol which is coming, and they laid an ambush for the Special Forces patrol. And so when the Special Forces patrol reached there, the terrorists fired. The first two soldiers who were leading that patrol got hit and seriously injured. Behind them were one soldier called Lt Goswami and a Subedar Mahinder Singh. And when they saw these two injured men fall, they immediately rushed in to rescue them. And they pulled out these two soldiers. Both survived, the injured soldiers. Unfortunately, in that operation, Lt Goswami lost his life in rescuing his comrades. And here is his wife receiving the Ashok Chakra during Republic Day from the President. The other photograph is of Subedar Mahinder Singh also receiving an award from the President, the Kirti Chakra. And you see that he is sitting down. He's sitting down because he's sitting on a wheelchair, because he got shot in the back and got paralyzed base downwards. And again, the question is, why do people put their own lives in danger? It's because there is this strong sense of unity, this strong sense of bonding, that this is my comrade. We have both put on the uniform together, and it is my duty to do everything I can for him. this huge sense of brotherhood, which is why we say, the military is a band of brothers, now a band of brothers and sisters also. It's like a mini India, the military. People come from all corners of the country. But when somebody, Goswami and Mohinder, when they rushed in to save these two people, they didn't say, oh, what caste is he? What creed is he? What color is he? What religion he is? They just saw their comrade in uniform. And when the Indian Constitution, the preamble of the Indian Constitution talks about fraternity, brotherhood among citizens of India, let me end by saying this is not a lesson that the army can give. I think it's a message that the army can give. How people of different faiths, religions can come together and bound by the fact that they're all wearing a common uniform. And I think this is a lesson or a message, I think, for all of us who are sitting here today, that if we all work together, bond together, you will create an organization that is so resilient that it can withstand any challenge that can come to you. So I will end here. Thank you very much for a very patient listening, and best wishes to all the award winners. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your precious words of wisdom. We are greatly inspired by your insights from the talk. On behalf of the Market Research Fraternity and Industry, we would like to sincerely express our gratitude from the bottom of our hearts. As we reflect on the freedoms we enjoy today, let us never forget about the sacrifices made by those who serve in our armed forces. To the armed forces who have gone above and beyond the call of duty, your courage, dedication, and sacrifice are the pride of our nation. And for that, we are eternally grateful. Thank you, sir.